And that's right, guys. We're back for another discussion video. This time, I'm going to say some crazy, unhinged hot takes. So be warned, this might offend you and piss you off. Just kidding. Not going to do that. Just going to talk about something that's been on my mind recently, just in terms of, looking at art, criticizing art, and how we're kind of just like rating everything and giving a lot of focus onto the rating itself with our own opinions and other people's opinions. And I recently saw a video not about this specific thing, but somewhat related, more about kind of being performative with your taste and your opinions. And this is more focused on like Letterboxd and that stuff. And I thought it was a great video, and it kind of sparked some of my own thoughts. So I will link that video in the description because it is a good video, and he talks pretty eloquently about his thoughts about it, and I really liked it. But yeah, this isn't something new in terms of like rating art and giving it a number score out of 10, or giving it a grade, or giving it a 5 bags of popcorn, whatever you're doing. We've been doing it for a while. Roger Ebert, everyone before Letterboxd, everyone would be like, bro, Roger Ebert gives this movie a 3 out of 4. This movie's going to be lit. That's what they said back in the 90s, of course. Which as well, Roger Ebert made his own freaking score, 4 stars. Props to him for freaking changing the game, just because everything now is at a 5 out of 10. Back then, he was just doing it his own way, out of 4. Props to him. Rest in peace. I think more times now it's the focus on how we look at our own opinions and how we look at other people's opinions on art, where it's like, oh, this person, gives it a 7 out of 10, this movie. But he also gave this other movie a 10 out of 10. So is his opinion valid on that 7 out of 10? Because I don't agree with why he gave that other movie a 10 out of 10. It becomes this whole ordeal with, trying to invalidate other people's opinions because you disagree with it. And, I'm just looking at this number. But, maybe this guy in this scenario that I'm making up, maybe this guy who reviews stuff, let's say it's a film. Okay. Let me try and break it down and give some stuff to it. Okay. So then I'm not just saying stuff, I'm kind of giving a scenario. So say this guy, let's call him Tim. So Tim, he's an online reviewer, and he gives Toy Story 2. He gives it, let's say, 7 out of 10. He's not crazy about Toy Story 2. However, he gives, I'm just looking at my movies here to spark. He gives, I don't know what I'm trying. The Simpsons movie 10 out of 10. Right. And then someone can look at that, bro, what? Because Toy Story 2 is a classic. It is a masterpiece. A lot of people love that movie. A lot of people think it's the best Toy Story movie. Bro, some guy on the internet, let's call him Jeb, is a freak. He's not a freak. He's online, and he's only focused on what other people have to say, their opinions. Jeb sees Tim's review of Toy Story 2, and he gives it a set. He's focused on him giving it a 7 out of 10. And then he also sees another review, and Tim gives the Simpsons movie a 10 out of 10. What? The Simpsons movie is good, sure, Jeb says, but Toy Story 2 is a classic, and you didn't love it as much as I did, or a lot. You didn't love it as much as other people do. Your opinion is freaking valid because you gave the Simpsons movie a 10 out of 10. And, I'm comparing that review to this review and your thoughts. But in Tim's review, Toy Story 2, what he has to say. Yes, this movie's great, and I understand why people like this movie, but there's just a couple things that, feel like weren't explored that well, or, some stuff that I can understand why people like it, but just wasn't personally for me. And then we go to the Simpsons review. Yes, I understand, it's a goofy movie. It's a great movie. What am I saying? What am I doing? Yes, it is a goofy movie, and it is, stupid, but The Simpsons just means a lot to me, and I think the way they took The Simpsons from the small screen to the big screen was pretty good, and The Simpsons just means a lot to me, so that's why I give it a 10 out of 10. It's just more of a personal opinion. That's right, because it is an opinion. A review is your opinion, guys. So, after that, whatever that was, tangent, that was just kind of me breaking down a scenario of, yes, we should look at what people have to say, and, their opinion on it, and not really focus on a number. And because you can kind of, with your opinion on movies, it can change. Yeah, Simpsons movie's 10 out of 10, but watched it a little bit ago, recently, for the first time in a while. Not as good as I thought. Could change, could be a 9 out of 10. But that's the thing. It's like people kind of fixate on what someone has given a number score, and then they look at another number score that they give, and it's like, oh, well, that doesn't line up. Let me just get this straight. There's nothing wrong with rating movies out of 5, out of 10, out of 6 bags of popcorn, guys. Especially on Letterboxd, you can do that. I do that all the time. I love doing it. But as well, I think now I'm trying not to be too fixated on the score, because the score can change. My opinion can change. And sometimes when I'm watching a movie, I'll think in the back of my head, oh, is this movie like a 3.5 out of 5, or is it more like a 4? And then sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, but like I gave that movie a 4.5, but I kind of like this similarly though. So does that mean it's a 4.5? And I think that's where it kind of comes to a weird point with your opinions on film, because movies are different. Movies are different, guys. There's just a lot of different components with it. So I think that's why as well I find it interesting that we're focusing more on just the number or the score rather than your thoughts on it, because there's a lot of components to a film. Guys, did you know that there's a lot of components to film? Just something that you might have not thought about, because there's cast, there is score, the music score, there's directing, there's the action, there's the awesome stuff, there's a lot of components to film. So I think just basing all of this stuff onto a score, it's very limiting, but it's something that we do all the time. And like I said before, it's not a bad thing that we, review or we rate stuff out of 10, out of 5. That's fine. I do it all the time. But I think being fixated on it or focusing too much on it, that's when it becomes like a little problem. And I try not to do that too much, where I'm like fixated on a score. And because I've been, reviewing and rating movies on Letterboxd for a while, I kind of have like a mentality of like, okay, this is kind of what a 5-star movie looks like for me. This is what a 4-star looks like for me. I kind of have a general view of what that looks like. But there's stuff that I don't want to like rate at all out of 10, out of 5, or whatever. And it's like for documentaries, I don't feel the need to like rate that out of 5 or whatever. Just because, I don't know, I feel like documentaries are different, where it's like you can kind of connect to a documentary on a like emotional and maybe personal level, but like the technicalities or like the filmmaking itself isn't on par as like other stuff. It's like because documentaries can be more raw, they can be more real. So there's a lot. I feel like it's on a different level for me. This is my opinion. Also, like people rate documentaries out of 5, and that's fine. It's not like you shouldn't do that. It's just I just don't feel the need to. And it's given me a lot of ease where it's just like, I like this documentary. I like this a lot. And then it's like, I don't need to think about what I'm going to give it out of 5. Because I think as well, it's like the story behind it can really resonate with me, even if like the technical skills aren't there, or the vice versa. Technical skills are there. I think it's a really crafted documentary, but the story didn't really leave a big impact on me. So yeah, there's just less of that to think about. And on like other art, in terms of like TV shows, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to mess with like giving, because then where are you at? Like you're like, okay, I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10, going to give episode 2 a 6 out of 10. And then it's like, okay, if you give a rating to the season, is it all of those numbers combined and like a total score, or is it just like the season as a whole? It's like you get into this weird territory, and this is also kind of stupid stuff to be complaining about or having a problem with, but it's just something that I feel just like I don't feel like I need to rate a TV show. And so for me, it's not like, oh, these are the shows that I give 10 out of 10. It's more like, yeah, these are the shows that are my favorite right now. And because as well, I think with TV shows, you can look at it as a whole, just as like, because it is like a journey. It's a bigger journey that you go on with a TV show than it is a film. So there's also that. And it's also like how you watch a show. I feel like I watch shows differently than I do movies. I can either just watch a show consistently back to back to back, or I can kind of like stretch it and like, what is it, anti-binge? I don't know what to call it, but like when I watched The Sopranos, it took me like years to watch because I was like, there was points where I wasn't really feeling it, and I was like, okay, I kind of just want to watch something else. And then I would take like a year or two break and then get back to it and be like, oh, this is sick, this is cool, and then I'll be really into it. So there's also that where it's like time changes and kind of your feelings, you'll be more invested into shows. So that's also why I try not to rate stuff, because just of how I'm watching it too. And music is a big one where, and I think as well, I'm less critical about music than I would be like for films and shows and stuff like that, just because I don't have as much expertise and I don't know everything about music and what goes into it. So there's music for me is very vibe based. If I'm messing with a song, if I'm messing with an album and I like it, I like it. And if I really like it, then it's probably like one of my favorites. Favorite albums, or favorite songs at the time. But my opinions on music, they kind of, they come in phases where it's like I'll be messing with this artist for a bit, and then I'll be messing with a different artist later. So yeah, I feel like with music, I don't really want to rate music. Yeah, the reason why I don't want to rate TV shows and music and that stuff is just because it gives me more freedom to just like be like, yeah, I just like it. Like imagine like, yeah, I like this album. I don't have to be like, well, I like this album, I gave it a 7 out of 10, but I also gave that album 8 out of 10. It's like, and then you're also comparing everything, and it's like there's so much music out there, and I feel like I would just feel so overwhelmed with like, oh, should I give this album an 8 out of 10, but I also gave that album an 8 out of 10, but it's completely different music. And I feel like I can just, not be overwhelmed with that stuff. Yeah, it just gives you more freedom to sit and think about your opinions when you don't give it a rating. It's just like, you can just think about it, and you can just, and like, if you're, discussing movies and shows and stuff like that with your friends, You're not going to be like, oh, you should watch this movie because I gave it an 8 out of 10. You're going to be like, you should see this movie because of all this stuff that I like about it. That's kind of how it works, guys. Yeah, it just gives you less restraint and more freedom if you do that. And I feel that way a lot of the times, where I can just, think back of, oh yeah, I really like that. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just, maybe if you guys want to try that, go ahead. Go ahead, and don't rate music out of 10 for 2-day challenge. Try that, guys. Going to be impossible, maybe, if you really like doing that. And also, your opinions change all the time, and your feelings and that stuff. So it's like your rating, sometimes it's not concrete. Sometimes, yeah, if you give a movie a 10 out of 10, it's going to change. Do you know how many movies I thought were a 10 out of 10 like a couple years ago, 5 years ago? Why did I say 5 years ago, like 5 years ago? Why did I say that? What the heck? Yo, 5 years ago. Do you know how many movies, I gave 10 out of 10? Perfect score. My opinion changes. I don't think they're 10 out of 10 anymore. And that's fine. That's fine. My opinion changed. The rating will change. And so, guys, opinions change, ratings change, you will change, and maybe change the way you think about looking at art. Don't be so focused on just a number score. Don't be focused on everyone's score that they give out of 5, give out of 10, or whatever. Just think about, what resonates with you in terms of the art, and also look at what resonates with them. And I feel like that maybe will make this a better place in terms of the online criticism in art criticism community. That's a very, very broad community, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of art. But yeah, this was a, kind of maybe it's a meaningful video, maybe it's a meaningless video, but I'm going to end the video.